If you are like me, you probably don't like confrontation. I do not like friction. I do not like arguments. I try to avoid it as much as possible. And yet, in the month of February, that's where we emphasize a lot of our experiences when it comes to relationships, you and I know that every relationship eventually is going to get to that place of confrontation. There will be differences. There will be friction. And the question is, what do we do? How do you navigate those things? See, again, most people, we have, going back to the analogy of the train, most of us looking at the engine and the cart and then the caboose. I told you in the past that the engine represents the spirit of the individual, then the cart represents kind of the thought process, the soul, and then your emotions at the end with the caboose. Well, if or since Jesus has come into our lives, that the implication is that the Spirit of Jesus has taken over our spirit. So now we belong to Christ, and the train, the life, is driven by Jesus. So when it comes to confrontations, when it comes to arguments, what you don't want to do is to let the caboose or your emotions lead the time of confrontation. Why? This is why. Two tendencies, I think. One extreme or one tendency when the caboose, instead of the Spirit of Christ, leads confrontation, is to simply hit the pause button. You pause because, once again, you might be like me, that you don't want to confront, you don't want problems, you don't want to go through whatever the case may be. So you tolerate, and the tolerating potentially translates into abuse. So you may get to the place, I may get to the place to become an enabler. And we allowed this bullying or this, potential abuse. So the pause button, I definitely do not recommend that. The other extreme, which also I think is like a pause button as well, is a tendency not simply to pause or to just allow things to happen, but the other one is when we grow into pridefulness. And maybe we are the ones that are forceful, and we are driven, and we're aggressive, and we are unapologetic. Both scenarios, I will argue, they are led by the caboose because personality is the one who drives. So again, if you're a firstborn, you're driven, you are timid, you are a middle child, whatever the case may be, you don't want to do that because confrontation and conflict typically brings those things to the surface, who you are. What you want to do is to hit the reset button, because the reset button in any relationship is the reintroduction of the engine, which is the Spirit of Jesus. That's where you are going to do. I'm going to do things that I'm not comfortable doing. I'm going to do the right thing in spite of whatever the consequences may be. Well, again, going back to the example in the Bible by Paul, Saul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, the way he dealt and confronted churches, which it was crazy, man. It was just, oh my goodness. As a pastor, Lord have mercy. I see Paul doing kind of a dual experience. On the one end, once again, reset, not pause, reset. He's going to deal with the issue. He's going to confront those false teachers, corrupt leadership, whatever the issue was, he was going to go head on and deal with it. On the other hand, is the reintroduction of the gospel, which, by the way, when the gospel is reintroduced, reintroduced, that gospel determines what's false, what's counterfeit. And I'm saying this because what you don't want to do, once again, you don't want to allow personalities to drive everything. I think personalities are going to be involved because that's all that you got. You got your personality, I got my personality. But what you want to do is you want personalities surrendered to the personality of Christ, to the aroma of Jesus, to the fragrance of Jesus. And that's exactly, now again, when I use the language of fragrance and aroma, please hear me say this. I'm speaking of us. It is in the context. God has chosen relationships to display the presence, the aroma of Jesus. So what you want to do in times of conflict, in times of brokenness, in times of disappointment and betrayal and differences, you want to see the presence of Jesus through those relationships being reconciled, not by pausing and hoping and wishing things are going to fix themselves, allowing abuse, or maybe becoming the perpetrator and creating abuse. You don't want to do that. You want to reset, reintroduce Christ, and let the presence of Jesus go at work on your behalf. Have a wonderful rest of this week, and thank you guys for joining. God bless.